Well, hello everybody, happy April. It's me again, the guy with the video game release dates, and guess what? I've got a big, huge pastel-colored Easter basket full of brand new ones. Here are April 2026's biggest game releases. Before we get into it, just the usual housekeeping that we do our very best to make these videos as timely and informative as possible, but games do occasionally slip through the cracks. Sometimes this is because the release dates get announced right after we've already finished making the video, like in the case of Slay the Spire 2, which hit early access on PC on March 5th. But sometimes we just leave a game off our list due to sheer human error because everybody makes mistakes sometimes, like we did with Planet of Lana 2 Children of the Leaf, which hit PC, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and both the PlayStations that very same day as well. Now let's get into it. If you want an appropriately foolish game to play on April Fool's Day, Goat Simulator 3 hits Switch 2. If goats don't have enough legs for you, that's a weird complaint, but a day later you can check out Darwin's Paradox, the colorful octopus stealth platformer that also features some Metal Gear Solid references because it's published by Konami. That's on all the newer consoles and PC. If funny animal games are too silly, you can also get down to business with some serious meditative factory automation in Modulus on PC that day as well. On April 7th, there's KuloNiku Bowl Up, a generous serving of a cooking game drizzled in anime aesthetics and sprinkled with a pinch of visual novel relationship management. If your interests are more musical than culinary, People of Note is a turn-based RPG with rhythm game elements set in a society where different factions and territories spring up around different musical genres, and it's up to you to assemble a killer fusion supergroup. On April 8th, there's ChainStaff, a brutal action platformer with a properly bizarre art style. Its baroque amounts of detail and truly alien creatures might look like they were created with the help of algorithms or deep learning, but the devs promise all the visuals were thought up and drawn by the brains and hands of actual humans.
Sometimes there's so much beauty in the world. I feel like I can't take it.
Just really weird humans. That one's coming to everything. If you're more interested in making human hands collide with human brains in a more drab and grounded setting, look no further than Samson, a Tyndalston story. This is a gritty, story-driven brawler set in an open-ish world. While the graphics and driving sequences might make it look like a full-scale AAA experience, it is likely going to be a bit leaner in scope as it's developed by a 40-person team at the fledgling studio Liquid Swords. However, in addition to being named after a sick Wu-Tang album, Liquid Swords was founded by ex-Avalanche devs who worked on games like Just Cause and Mad Max, so they definitely know a thing or two about sandbox game design. That one's just on PC for now. On the 13th, Gunboat God hits PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. This is a fast-paced shmup that has you staying afloat while dealing with enemies above and below the waterline, which looks kind of like a cross between the frantic shoot-'em-up gameplay of Luftrausers and the macabre nautical trappings of Dredge with a high-contrast art style that's a distant relative of Patapon. Does it play like any of those games? I have no idea. On April 14th, Replaced finally hits Xbox Series and PC, the cinematic cyberpunk pixelated platformer that we've all been waiting patiently for and which had a March release date until that one got replaced with this one very last minute. Glad to finally check this one out. If you want some pixelated fantasy rather than sci-fi, Regions of Ruin Runegate is a dwarf-centric side-scrolling RPG coming to PC that day as well. Also on PC is HORDEKILL, a third-person shooter with some extremely alien designs that look somewhere between H.R. Giger and Clive Barker. If you prefer facing the kind of hordes of the different spelling that are the bane of Marie Kondo's existence, you can dispense with all of the clutter that doesn't bring you joy in A Storied Life Tabitha, a cozy puzzle game that takes some cues from unpacking and a little to the left. That's on Switch and PC. I guess it is the time of year for spring cleaning, or at the very least playing games about doing chores instead of actually doing those chores, and a day later there is Cleaning Up, which will have you sucking up some big messy piles of trash on both PlayStation, Switch, and PC. On April 16th, we got a stack of games including Cthulhu, The Cosmic Abyss, a first-person Lovecraftian horror game that'll have you investigating a deep-sea mining operation in the not-too-distant future of 2053 and probably encountering some incomprehensible cosmic terror older than time itself along the way. That's on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Still that day for basically everything is Mouse, PI for Hire, which blends the shooting of an FPS from the 1990s with the art style and sense of humor of cartoons from 70 years prior. If you prefer reptiles to rodents, there's Gecko Gods, a 3D puzzle adventure starring some of those funny little squishy lizards. I'm gonna be honest, I've had friends with pet geckos and I have no idea what their deal is. I don't know what part of the world they're from. I don't know what they do when they're not being pets. I don't know what makes them unique in the reptile world or just in the general animal kingdom, I could easily find out answers to all of these questions, but I think it's important that there remains a little mystery to make life more magical. You might think a VR game about exploring an amusement park would be a fun time, but that might not be the case with The Amusement, which might involve going on some rides, but also involves dealing with a family's grief in the wake of World War I. Any roller coaster can be an emotional roller coaster if you ride it while you're horribly depressed. That's on MetaQuest and PC VR. If you like games about little tiny places where you can move a bunch of stuff around, you are in luck. On PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC, Under Par Golf Architect lets you build the country club of your dreams and then only allow paying members there for one specific purpose.
You should have children playing here. You should have families having picnics. You should have a goddamn petting zoo. Instead, you got these stupid electric carts for you old men with nothing better to do.
If country clubs are too rich for your blood and you'd rather slum it, there's also ShantyTown on PC, which is an extremely chill-looking cyberpunk diorama builder about finding beauty in chaos, something I very much appreciate. I've built a few analog dystopia dioramas of my own, and there's something very gratifying about carefully making something look really messed up. You want to see some of my dioramas? Check them out! Last but not least, in the teeny tiny game department, there's Tomodachi Life Living the Dream on Switch. If you're unfamiliar, this series is sort of like Nintendo's answer to The Sims, but with Miis and also a lot weirder. Plus, they all have warbly little robot voices, which is one of those things that will never not be funny to me.
Pardon me, could I have a moment? My name is Alice. Hey, Alice!
Speaking of robots, on April 17th, Pragmata hits Xbox Series, PS5, Switch 2, and PC, which stars an astronaut and a little android girl solving puzzles and fighting some big robots in space and also on Earth, and it's cool to see Capcom just making up a new video game. What the heck is a Pragmata? I don't know, what's a Pragmata with you? But seriously, we're all gonna find out what a Pragmata is when we play this game. On 420, Jay and Silent Bob Chronic Blunt Punch finally hits Xbox Series, PS5, Switch, and PC. Look, I know video game development is a long, complicated, arduous process, but this one has been quite a while. I interviewed Jason Mewes about this in 2016 when it was first crowdfunded. But hey, if anything, it is comically on brand for a game about a couple stoners to take so long, and props to the devs for picking the absolute perfect release day, the day that marijuana was invented.
Who smokes the blunts? We smoke the blunts. Rolling blunts and smoking.
In case Regions of Ruin Runegate wasn't enough alliteration, on the 20th there's Saint Slayer's Spear of Sacrilege, a throwback side-scroller set in the 17th century in which a valiant hero named Rudiger must save the Roman Empire from a Catholic priest gone evil by hitting a bunch of skeletons and stuff with a blasphemous polearm. I'm pretty sure this one is 100% historically accurate, and it's coming to 100% of everything. On April 22nd, Fable creator Peter Molyneux returns to his bread and butter with Masters of Albion, which puts a new spin on the god game genre that Molyneux helped carve out with classics like Black and White and Populous. That one's hitting early access on PC. On April 23rd, Kingdoms Return, Time-Eating Fruit, and the Ancient Monster pair side-scrolling action with isometric city building, and presumably also some sort of temporal produce and an elderly creature. That's on all the newer consoles, Switch 1 and PC. Also on the 23rd is Outbound, a game all about living in a van down by the river.
I'm sick and tired of living in a van down by the river!
But like in a good way. It's a chill, open-world co-op crafting and exploration game which looks sort of like a survival game except without the constant impending fear of death. That's coming to both Switches, both Xboxes, PS5, and PC. Hey, have you heard about these Moomins? They're Finnish trolls that look like albino hippopotamuses, and they've been getting into all sorts of placid, low-stakes misadventures with this guy named Snufkin, and the main villain is this disgusting cryptid named Stinky, and they've been around since literally before World War II was even over. Anyway, Moomintroll Winter's Warmth is a gorgeous new puzzle game for PC and Switches, which is out April 27th. I know less about these creatures than I do about geckos, and I'm inclined to learn more about them because they have so much whimsy. If laid-back magical creatures in the Scandinavian countryside doesn't go quite hard enough for you, you might be better off with Diablo IV, Lord of Hatred, the latest expansion in the beloved Dungeon Crawler series, which adds a couple new classes and presumably a few new demonic entities for you to click on repeatedly until they explode into a pile of gold and blood and polearms and cuirasses and trinkets. That's on everything that Diablo IV is already on April 28th. Is Memoir Revelations in Salsetta is the 2014 PlayStation Vita entry in the long-running action RPG series, which already made its way to PC and PS4 in the years since its initial release, and on April 28th it makes its way to a handheld device once again with a Switch 1 version. On the 29th, Bobo Bay hits PC, a creature collecting pet simulation type game that looks a little like Sonic Adventure's Chow Garden, except instead of chows, it's full of Bobos. What's a Bobo? I don't know, probably one of those things. You see them? I'm pretty sure those are the Bobos. Get a load of those Bobos, everybody. Still that day on PC is Demon Lord Just a Block, which is an action roguelite where the world only moves when you do. So in a sense, it's real-time and turn-based, depending on whether or not you are actively playing the game at any given point. Think about it. Meanwhile, Echoes of Mora hits PC, which is a surreal but laid-back narrative adventure that can be played in VR or regular R. Finally, on the 29th, there's MotoGP 26, a futuristic car racing game that imagines a world in which automobiles have been streamlined to the point of minimalism, with no doors and no roofs, just an engine and a pair of wheels the driver must cling to like a horse's saddle. Actually, wait, hold on. No, those are motorcycles. False alarm, everybody. It's a game about motorcycles. That's still pretty cool, I guess. That's on PS5, Xbox Series, both Switches, and PC. And look, I have to think up something new and interesting to say about this game every single year, and they can't all be winners. It's a game about motorcycles. April goes out with a bang with a few notably noteworthy games that are worth noting here. Inconbini, One Store, Many Stories is a slice-of-life management sim that'll have you running a Japanese convenience store in the early 90s. In case you're unfamiliar, Konbini are immensely superior to American convenience stores because they sell manga and egg salad sandwiches that won't give you food poisoning, and sometimes even Gundam models. Honestly, this kind of sounds like my dream job, so maybe I'm just nostalgic for simpler times, working the graveyard shift at the old Highway 12 Chevron Extra Mile back when I was 19. It was haunted, you know. That's on both PlayStations, both Xboxes, Switch 2, and PC. If you're more interested in video games that are about, interesting stuff, not just weird esoteric experiences, you can make some superheroes beat the ever-living shit out of each other in Invincible Versus, an all-new brawler featuring the lovable cast of Robert Kirkman's blood-soaked comic book turned hit Prime Video series that's on Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. If you prefer to enter a bullet hell full of cosmic horrors, the PS5 exclusive Saros is effectively the spiritual successor to Housemarque's Returnal, weaving some themes from Robert Chambers' proto-Lovecraftian tale The King in Yellow into something decidedly sci-fi, starring Hollywood heartthrob and loudmouth gamer Raul Coley. Looks sick.
This is what it does. It gets in our heads, and it twists, and it turns.
And there you have it. Before we go, a big huge thanks to the usual suspects who make this show come together each and every month, like Amanda, Logan, Chris, and Tim, who edited this video because Chris abandoned us in favor of his adorable newborn child, something for which we will never forgive him. Also, happy fatherhood, Chris. Also, in addition to all the wonderful folks who take the time to watch these videos each and every month, a big huge thank you to everybody who took the time to check out our new series looking at big 4K Blu-ray releases. Sadly, those didn't do as well as we'd hoped they would, so we are focusing on other projects. For instance, I have been nose down working on a massive feature about the many bizarre controversies, debacles, and headlines that have sprung up around the Pokemon franchise over the last 30 years, including urban legends, armed robberies, papal blessings, and several hundred hospitalized school children, to name a few. It's pretty wild, and a ton of research went into it, so keep an eye out for that one. And on that note, I will see you next time, and for everything gaming, IGN.